I want to talk about repeating the command, and this is important. No, you should not repeat the command. And I know that some of you that watch my videos will hear me repeating the command, and I do repeat the command, and you can when you're just training the dog to learn something new. With a puppy, we repeat the command, okay? Like you'll say sit, 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 or down, down, okay? So you can do that when they're learning it, but when they learn it, it just becomes, if you give them the command, you say sit and the dog doesn't sit, you say no and repeat the command. With an exception. Now, when a dog comes here and I'm doing advanced training, like let's talk about Joopy holding a door open. He already knows sit, and we're working on sit this whole month. We're working on sit. He needs to do sit a lot better. So when I'm working on sit with Joopy and we're using the door and the door is going to hit his ass, I repeat the command. This is a dog that's learning something new. Once he learns this, right, and he's sitting, and if the door would hit him in the butt and he would get up and get barn sour, I would say, no, sit, or no, get back into heel and sit. Does this make sense? You don't want to be in the position of saying sit, sit, sit. They'll start counting, you know? It's a joke. Don't do that. You have to make sure that they understand that the command word, the command you give them, that's when they need to respond. And if they're not going to respond, you're going to give them negativity by saying no, which will have been conditioned in during training. In other words, when the dog isn't sitting, you might give it a correction by saying the word sit, so the word is tied into that physicality, you know, that negative annoyance that you're trying to create with the dog. So then it sees no as something bigger. No has to be conditioned in on all dogs. You have to really keep it at no, and you have to make sure that the dog understands that no means you're in the improper position, or you're being non-compliant. You need to be compliant. You have to do it. It's just as important as the negative reinforcement is just as important as the positive reinforcement. And your words that you use to indicate things to the dog, your positive word, which is yes or good boy or whatever you use, and no, they're just as important. The dog, that's the way that they learn. Purely positive methods of dog training aren't very effective. They aren't. You end up with very confused dogs. They're a mess. If you're dealing with a positive reinforcement trainer, she's not going to use the word no because it's purely positive. And if she's using the word no, she's doing her purely positive training. She's a liar. She's not purely positive, which is this is the case with many of these trainers. Claim to be purely positive, but then they're putting, you know, pinch collars on dogs and stuff. Teach your dog no, teach your dog good, or whatever words you're using for positive reinforcement, but don't repeat commands. Don't. You can do it when the dog is young, or you're training it to do something new, you're making it more difficult, but once the dog learns to do it, to do this command, to do this action, if it is non-compliant, you say no, which is already conditioned in, and repeat the command, and the dog becomes compliant. Okay? Don't repeat commands. And this is very important. If you catch yourself repeating a command, acknowledge it to yourself. Say, I just said sit 2 times in a row, and do it right the next time. We're all human. We all make mistakes. Do you understand? But if you don't acknowledge it to yourself that I made the mistake and I'm going to try and do it better next time, you'll continue repeating the command, sit, sit, sit. How many times have I seen this? When your dog doesn't sit, you've already said sit. What do you say? You say no, sit. I hope this makes sense. It's very important.